Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the prime session. And next session is our keynote speech. I'm pretty sure we wait for a long time. The keynote speech, keynote speaker, when we invite, he's contributing for the hip hop for more than 10 years. And he's a senior engineer of Adelaide Databricks, a Python code developer, the maintainer of PDB, Apache Spark committer, and a popular tech creator on Bilibili and YouTube. In this speech, he will answer two questions people are asking most. First one is, why should you work on open source projects? And second is, why should you do that? So let's welcome Gao Tian.
Hello, everyone. Very honored to be invited to COSCUP and to give the keynote speech. And I'm glad that you all came here to listen to this speech because, I mean, as many of you know, that for conferences like this, keynote speech is normally the least interesting one. Not because the keynote speakers are boring, just because keynote speech normally needs to cover like more general contents that is suitable for everyone. COSCUP is like a really large area, so I'm not able to cover 100% of it. But today I'll try to cover exactly 50% of COSCUP, and that's ask, open source coder. Yeah. So in this talk, I will try to share my experience about becoming an open source coder, like why I did it, why you should probably do it, and if you already want to do it, how to achieve that. A little bit about myself to begin with, because like, who the heck is this guy, right? Why are we listening to him? I'm currently a software engineer at Databricks. I work on PySpark, and I'm a Python core developer, which means I have the right privilege to Python itself. And I'm also a Apache Spark committer. Similar thing, they have different names for Apache projects and Python projects. But that's some of my experience, or you can say achievement in open source world. And I'd like to share some of my thoughts and like the journey that I've done with you. Let's start with why. I mean, a lot of you here probably already started working on open source projects and probably already knew why you want to do that. But for me, that is actually one of the most common questions I got asked from people who say are in college or just graduated, and they were like, okay, I have a lot of time, or I have limited time probably. What should I do? I mean, I can work on open source projects, or I can, I don't know, get a girlfriend or something. Always get a girlfriend. But yeah, like, why do I want to spend my time on open source projects? When I ask this question, my answer is normally, if you don't know why, you shouldn't do it. But that is not a good answer here. And that is not a great answer to invite people to come to open source world. I kind of believe it, but for a lot of new grads, this does not say much. They still want some concrete reasons to work on open source. So let me try to explain what things you can get from working on open source projects. The most obvious one is probably to practice your programming skills. And you're probably like, okay, I practiced my programming skills, right? From taking courses in college, or doing some random projects that from the internet, right? I follow it, or I work on some quiz, right? Problems, algorithm quizzes, something like that. Yeah, those will like help you with your programming skills, but open source world, open source projects give you something different that is very difficult to get when you just, work on course projects. First of all, you can work on a real project, and by real, I mean it has a life cycle, right? It starts from somewhere, and normally it deprecates in a few years. And there are probably multiple versions that you need to maintain at the same time. And there is a release process, right? How to release a product, and there will be CIs, right? How to do incremental tests, continuous integration, how to do a automatic release, how to set up everything, how to test different branches. Those are things that you will not experience when you work on toy projects. And also, your project will have real users, and that means you have to think about backwards compatibility. When you add new things, are going to break old one. That is actually one of the largest things that I learned when I was working on CPython. And you need to learn about your target audience, right? You don't, you basically build projects, and you need to think about the customers, the users who are using your projects. And you will get some real feedback from users, and you need to think about, oh, should I make my projects better? And you will experience some real code review from the project's owners or maintainers, right, about consistency, right, about the choice of design and implementation, how to do it better. And there will be some dark corners that you will never think of without those reviews from senior engineers that you probably just isn't aware of it on your toy projects. Besides practicing your programming skills, you also get the chance to be part of a community, which is really nice. Like, you can communicate with other people, basically learn to communicate with other people. You need to learn to convince other people. Like, I don't know if you know this, but I'm correct, you're stupid is normally gonna help. No, it's not gonna help. So you need to learn how to convince others, right? You need to learn to agree with others while propose your own idea. You need to learn to deal with disagreement, right? When you disagree with someone, how to move forward, how to make progress. And you need to learn to drive a proposal, because for a community project, you are not gonna just implement anything that you want and just leave it there and just commit code and push. That's not gonna happen. If you want to do something large, you need to think ahead, think about what the feature means for the projects. You need to make trade-offs. So what do we gain? What do we lose? And then you need to propose this whole thing, discuss with the community, and try to move it forward. And most importantly, you got to meet people just like you, just like what we're doing here. You get to meet people who like to work on open source projects, who likes to program, who like to discuss technical issues, which is really nice too. This is just fun. And this is a very commonly seen, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's a very common pyramid. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs, I believe, and basically describes different levels of human needs for an individual person. And on the top of the pyramid is called self-actualization. And that basically means live to the fullest, to do what you are capable of. Because I can do it, so I am doing it, and I got good feelings when I achieve this. I think this is actually really important for open source projects. So you are able to work on a project that is helpful for some people or even a lot of people, and you did it, and you will feel like that you are realized, that your potential has realized, and it's also feels nice. And that is some reasons that I got for you about why you should become an open source developer. And I want to talk a little bit about how, because some of you may be in college or just graduated and you're like, oh, I do want to work on open source projects. But I also have a lot of questions about, okay, I want to work on it, but I never get a chance to start. I don't ever know how to start. I just, have all this enthusiasm and just don't know how to work on it. So let's talk a little bit about how to become an open source developer. I want to start with my own stories, right? My own timeline, if you want to say. A little bit about my experience. I started my first project in 2015 on GitHub in 2015. It's called FIR, basically means 5 in a row, or Gomoku, if you are more familiar with that word. Basically, a kind of platform where players can build both to play 5 in a row. But it was really like a scratchy, and people need to upload their source code to play this thing. It's not good, but some people played it. And then I built some like scraper project, Zhihu Questions, which actually helped me to get plenty of followers on Zhihu. And then I built Colorfied and Colorfied 2, which are both like AI competition projects. Like back then, AI is not another word for LLM. It's like rule-based AI. But yeah, I also host hackathons in the US, in the schools. And then I transferred my interest in dev tools, developer tools. So I basically implemented a vStracer, which got, 7,000 stars on GitHub now. Watchpoints, Object Print, like a lot of individual projects like that. And then I decided to, okay, let's join a large open source community. And then in 2023, I made my first commit to CPython. And I became a CPython core dev in 2024. And I made my first commit to Spark in 2025. And I became a Apache Spark committer in 2026. So that's a timeline. It's about a little bit more than 10 years of my experience in open source world, which I kind of picked the successful ones here. So this is not the whole story, right? This is a story that's, it's still not full, but it is a story that's much like more real. I've done a lot of projects that just failed. Right? Sometimes I've kind of finished it, sometimes I made a proof of concept, sometimes I just abandoned it. And as you can tell, I had a lot of experience on failure, and later on I probably become more comfortable about what I should do and what I can make success of. But this is still not a full list. From this timeline, you can probably tell that one of the fundamental things to become part of the open source project is the desire to build something. That if you want to build something, you can probably become part of it. And there are two doors, right? Two ways to become an open source developer. You either build your own project, or you can join a large project. I'll talk about them both. So first survey in this talk. We have 80% here, we have 120% here. Like, who believe that the 80% is larger? No one? Okay, who believes the 120% is larger? Okay, whose hand is injured and cannot raise? Okay, so people have different ideas about this thing, right? Sometimes people believe that 120% is larger because like the number is larger, right? But 80% here is like literally larger than 100% in font, right? But what about we put the baseline under, right? We have the same color, and we put 100% after that. And probably more people will believe that 120% is larger because there is a baseline that is obviously smaller than that. And that is my imagination or my thought about individual open source projects, that your goal is to build something that is 120%, even if the overall project is small. So you want to build something that is slightly better than the best thing in the world, no matter how small that field is. More than half of the project failed immediately when people decide what to do, when people choose what to build. So it's really important to choose what to build as an individual project. You want to pick an area that you're familiar with, and you want to have a projection about a final project. That means you know what the final status is for your final product. And you better have a lot of knowledge of the existing products, which means you need to Google it or search it on GitHub or do whatever to figure out what other similar projects are there in the market. A lot of people forgot about that. They start building something, they spend weeks or even months working on it, and after they build it, they realize that there is the exact same thing in the world and it's already dominating the market. That's pretty bad. So all of this thing, all of the things above I listed is to make sure that you can do something that is slightly better. It only needs to be slightly better in some area than all the product in the world, than all the similar product or projects in the world. So as an individual project, you don't have enough time to finish everything, so you'd better pick something that's small enough that you can finish. That is a very common mistake. Like people are like, oh, I'm going to build Twitter. I'm going to build Google, right? And they start working on it and they can never finish. Like a finished project is always better than an unfinished one, no matter how much effort you put into it. Make sure that you can finish your product. And you must have your killer feature in the first version, which means, okay, I know how my product is going to be slightly better than everything in the world. And you have to have that in your first version. You can't say, oh, I'm just going to build a thing that is the same or worse than everything else in the world, and then I'll make it slightly better in a year or two. That's not going to work. So you have to have your killer feature in the first version. And a very important thing that is kind of not the very the most thoughtful thing is that the product needs to make sense without users. What does it mean? Say, okay, I'm going to build an Instagram. Instagram is actually not that difficult to build if you want to build it. But Instagram does not make any sense if it does not have enough users. That's a product that's a good example of this. Or say you want to do a dating app, right? And that doesn't make sense. That's not even the product without users. But say if you want to work on a developer tool, you want to build vtracer, you want to build a debugger, right? Even if you have only 3 users, the product still makes sense to those 3 users. They can use the debugger fine, so that you can accumulate users in time. As long as your product's good enough, they'll continue to use it. So you don't have to have a lot of users using your thing to begin with to make your project successful. After you had the thought about what you want to build, you want to implement it, right? You want to do all the coding. Implementation is actually the easiest part to work on individual projects, especially now with the LLM, with the help of LLM. And most importantly, it's irrelevant. A lot of the great open source project has horrible implementation. So I'm gonna just skip this part. I mean, I can spend hours to talk about the implementation, but that's not the important part of our talk today. I want to talk about promotion, because promotion is what makes a project a product. And that's what makes your open source project a real open source. Because if no one is using it, if no one is contributing to it, it's just a toy project, right? It's not real open source. The name matters more than you think. Like a lot of people just don't think about the importance of having a good name. But name is really important. Think about all the successful open source projects. They all have great names, right? It needs to be concise, so not too long, right? You have like a 20-letter word for your project. It's not going to be successful. It's just like 7, 10 letters at most. And it better be meaningful. So vtracer, right? Visualization, tracing, you put something in your name, right? Watch points, right? It's a common name, like for like literally watch point. So you can't just pick a random name. You can call it Tom, but it's not a great name, right? It's concise, but it's not meaningful. And it better be unique. So when just Google your name that you want to name it beforehand, and say if you Google this thing and there is a Hollywood star pop up, don't use that. Right, because the user will never able to find your project. Whenever they Google it, the Hollywood star pops up. Make sure that the name is not taken already. And it's better to be sayable, right? It's just like you put a lot of words, it's very difficult to pronounce and people don't know how to say it, and it's just bad for your project. And a good README is very important too. A good README is just very like this, right? You have the simplest demo, from scratch, how to install it, how to use it in the simplest way. And make sure you put, not a lot of, you put some tags. And tags like the build passing and your PyPI version, your license. That makes your project professional, at least like looks professional. And a graph beats a paragraph. That means if you can show it in a graph, or even a GIF, right? Do not use words to describe it. People do not like to read. They like to watch. And if you don't know how to make a really good README, just copy others. Like find the most successful projects in that area and just copy it. Whatever they do, you do. And normally you can do a great README. The next thing is probably a little bit hard, is to let people know about it, right? This part, there's no convenient way to do it. You got to find your users. Sometimes they're in Reddit, in Threads, in X, on GitHub, and you can go to conferences like this. There are ways to do that, but you need to find your users, and you need to know how to tell the story to them. And you can make videos and demos. Make like a short video about how to use this, how much your product is, how great your product is, and you can do a little bit demos of how to use this thing, and just lead people into it. And don't forget to write articles about it. And when you write articles, do not just introduce what your product does, right? Because no one is going to search your projects directly unless it's already a very successful project, right? What they are going to search is the problem that your product is trying to solve, right? vtracer, what do we want? So my Python program is slow. Like, how do I do that? Or I want to profile my Python program. I want to understand my Python program, right? So think about the problems that your user is going to search that leads to your product, and work on that, right? And just try to catch a big bus, like the debuggers that you must learn about in 2026, right? Write an article like that and put all the great debuggers there along with your project. And users gonna search that article, users are gonna see that article, and they'll look through it and say, oh, there's a new thing that I haven't tried, and they will learn about it. So just be creative. That's all about individual projects. Individual projects is very different than the larger open source projects. The truth is, it's really difficult to build a community on an individual product. You probably can get some users, right? You can get stars, whatever you want, but it's very difficult to build a community. So most of the time, you still work on it individually. You are creating a project that is serious, okay, but you can't really experience the community part for the individual project. And honestly, people are normally more recognized by their roles in larger open source projects, right? A lot of you probably, not a lot, some of you probably know me as the Python core dev, right? It's not about who I, like, what kind of person I am. It's just because I work on CPython. And it's about my role in a very large open source project. And that just happens everywhere, right? I'm not complaining it, it's just a fact of the world. So that's probably a reason that why you want to join a larger open source project. So if you want to work on a larger open source projects, there are probably some requisites, some prerequisites. It's not too much. Like, people sometimes think too much about it. People are like, oh, I'm probably not good enough to work on like really big open source projects. That's never true. You need to know how to use Git a little bit. You need to be able to pull, branch, work on it, commit, do rebase, push, make a pull request. That's something that you do need to know, but that's not too difficult. And you need to write reasonable code, right? Your code cannot be too ugly or too horrible. And you need to understand the code base. You need to understand what your product is, right? You cannot say, oh, I want to work on PySpark, and I'll just start. You can't start. You don't know what PySpark is doing. You don't have to understand everything, because no one understands everything about a large open source project, but you need to understand the part that you want to work on. And it normally helps a lot if you are already a user of that specific project. Say, if you are a Python user and you want to work on Python, that's normally easier because you already have an opinion of the product. You already know what bothers you when you are using that project. So you will have a lot of background knowledge about that project. Where to start? That is a very practical question. Like, I'm using CPython, and I want to work on CPython, but I really don't know where to start. I'll give you some directions. First of all, for your first few PRs, it's really nice to work on tests. Tests, not only about writing tests. Writing tests itself, of course, it helps. You can make sure that you are make sure that you write useful tests. Useful tests is tests that provides extra coverage. It's not like more tests, the better, right? You sometimes write useless tests, testing code that are fully tested, right? The test can provide extra coverage or an extra check, right? The coverage is already there, but you did not assert something, did not check something. Or maybe you can provide clearer failure info, like why everything fails, right? You can work on stabilization, which means, oh, there is a flaky test that passed 95% of time, and you investigate why the rest 5% fails, right? That's also very helpful. You can work on optimization. There are tests that are really slow, and developers are just not aware of it. So that is also a very good part to start. So tests is something that I like to recommend. And bugs. Make sure that you reproduce the bug first and fix it, and give it enough thought about a fix. Because sometimes, yes, you fix the bug per se, but other tests start to fail. Or you introduce a large performance regression, or you change behavior. So think more about the fix itself. Just don't, ask your agent to fix the bug itself and just ignore everything else. There will be some out-of-date stuff. That's also a good place to start too, because sometimes when a developer changes code, they forgot that there are, say, documentation, there are comments, there are other codes that just forgot about it. For example, in this function, I changed it so it does not need to check some argument anymore, but the code is left there, right? It's not used anymore, but it's already there. It's still there. You can remove it or change it. Sometimes this is good. The ultimate goal is to make the project obviously better. You don't need to argue if this is a change that makes the thing better. It's obviously better. Obviously, it fixed the bug. Obviously, the test coverage is more, right? So it's easier for maintainers to merge your pull request. Some things that I don't suggest you start with, typos, cosmetic change. Those are things that we do not really appreciate. Like, if you can fix every single typo in the documentation, that's fine. But sometimes you just find a single typo and make a PR and like makes a big deal of it. And we don't really like this. Cosmetic change, normally not necessary. Documentation, unless you are a great language user that you can make something obviously better, no, normally not the best place to start. Do not start working on a new feature without approval of the maintainer, because you will just get ignored. And do not work on refactor, because there are probably a lot of reasons why the code is left that way, and just need to argue a lot. And if you're a newcomer, probably won't work. And do not work on version upgrades, because you can potentially touch something that you don't want to touch and break things. And after you like figure out, okay, I'm gonna do this, and I implement it, and then I make a PR. And just let yourself know a PR is not the beginning. A PR is the beginning, not the end. Because one of the hardest parts, you probably have worked on open source a lot. One of the hardest parts of merging our first PR is to get a reviewer. It's not easy to get a reviewer, right? So you need to learn the way to get the reviewer to review your code. You can check the owner's file, and you can check the recent commit history, and you can check the reviewers of related pull requests, like figure out, find the recent pull request to the same file, to the same function, and see who reviewed the code. And you can find sometimes there are super active members in the project, and you find them, right? And then in the PR, tag them gently, right? Because not every reviewer just like go through every single PR in the repo. Just tag them, like add someone, and could you take a look at this pull request, like with a short description, right? And the best way is to find a mentor. This is not like easy, it's not like a given. But if you get a chance to attend conferences like this, or sometimes there are like offline meetups, you probably can find someone that can guide you and can review your code. And iterating on a PR is a communication, right? You have a reviewer, and you need to get the approval of the reviewer and merge code, which means you'd better respond fast to the feedback from the reviewer, so that the person still remembers what your proposal is and what their feedback is. And you need to explain your thinking in detail if you disagree, right? You need to like explain why you think something is better. And don't argue about everything, right? They are reviewers because they have worked on the product for a really long time. And just don't say, oh, you're all wrong, I'm all right, and they'll just start ignoring you. But basically, be nice, right? Be nice. And the last thing is, if you merge your first PR, you are already a contributor. And probably you merge 5 and start merge 10. And you probably you're probably wondering how I can become a committer from a contributor, how I can get some access to the project, how I start leading the project. Committed status is basically it's basically a trust that's built up in the community, right? Some suggestions: first of all, start reviewing code. This is a very common thing for contributors to do, not just write code. Start reviewing code from other people. This is very helpful. And be part of the community. So be involved in the discussion, in the issue list, in the mail list. Like let people know that you care about this project. You are involved. You make suggestions, and try to own something. Like how I became a Python core dev is basically I own PDB. Right? There's some old components that no one is interested in, and you start owning it, and it's very helpful. And the most important thing is to keep doing it. I was asked a lot of time okay, how I can become a CPython core dev. And my answer is normally, if you have 100 commit, right? 100 merge PRs, and you are still not a Python core dev, just ask me. I'll take a look. Like, keep doing it. Make a lot of pull requests, merging code. Like, it takes months or sometimes a few years to become a committer. And general rule is be a committer before becoming a committer. I believe that applies to almost every single project. It's just you're already doing the job of a committer, and then you become a committer. What about AI? This is a very interesting question, right? Does AI make this whole thing easier, becoming a contributor? My personal experience is that we love AI, but we hate it more. Because AI makes it so much easier to, like, for people to understand code, to generate code, and to make a pull request. So it basically takes zero effort to make a PR that seems to be legit. So for every single, like, a large open source project, you will see PRs that seems to be, like, great, and it takes you 10 minutes to realize, oh, this is bullshit, this is just garbage. So open source projects in the AI era has different choices, right? Some projects just reject LLM generated code, right? Some projects ask contributors to declare whether code was generated by an LLM. But for us committers, it's a trend that committers start to ignore LLM generated PRs from strangers. So if I don't know you, I just don't look at your PRs if I think it's LLM generated. So as a contributor, what you can do is that, first of all, realize that reputation is more important than ever, because that's how you got reviewers to review your code. And I'm not asking you to abandon AI. I'm not asking you to, oh, I'm going to start write everything by hand. No, that's not the solution. Just be responsible. Responsible for the code that generated, responsible for code that that you want to review, that you push, right? And the trick is to make the PR more human. Right? It makes it like something that human writes. So don't just generate and push. Don't do that. Take some look at your code generated, review the code, and question about the code. Not sending prompt to AI. Just question by yourself, is this a good code? Try to write less code and less tests. Just don't generate a whole bunch of code. See if you can reduce the number of lines. Is it necessary? And a recommendation is to write the description by hand. Do not generate by LLM, because that's the first thing that we look at. And if you believe that the description is generated by LLM, we sometimes just ignore it. At the very end, I want to come back to the why, because some people just think, okay, I'm just pragmatic. I don't care about improving my skills. I don't care about community. I don't care those things. I care about real stuff, right? I care about real stuff. So is there like a real benefit that you work on an open source project? There actually is, right? First of all, you sometimes got free trips and conferences. I'm invited to COSCOP now. I'm going to be in PyCon Taiwan in 2 months. I was in PyCon Taiwan last year. I'm going to PyCon US and CPython Core Dev Sprint for free. Basically hotels, flights, and sometimes even meals. So that's a real thing if you work on an open source project. And you got more friends all over the world. I made a lot of friends here. You get a new topic to talk about, right? You can discuss that, and you basically got a local guide in every city, right? I was in Taichung 2 days ago, and there was someone that tried to buy me some authentic local drinks or something. But yeah, that's something you get, and more often than never, you get a free meal. Some people will buy you a meal, right? I got a free meal from PyCon Taiwan for lunch today. So that's some real benefit you got from working on open source projects. And it's literally a boost for a career, right? besides individual experience, it's probably one of the best things on your resume to work on real open source project. Like I got asked a lot about my open source contributions when I talk about companies to discuss about my resume. And companies will reach out to you based on your open source project. I got reached out a lot of times just because they saw my GitHub or a specific project. And it would be a good example for behavior interviews. Like, what is the most difficult thing? Like, what if you have disagreements with someone? And you can use that as an example. And sometimes you get an offer. I actually got my offer because I work on at Databricks now because I work on open source projects. So I believe if you don't value those like community thing, like practice thing, or like self-actualization thing, there are still reasons for you to do open source projects. These are the concrete, more realistic reasons to do open source projects. Thank you all. That's everything, and it's Q&A time.
Let's thanks for our keynote speaker, Gao Tian again. It's an amazing speech. So I'm pretty sure you have another question you want to ask, but curious thing is, I didn't see any question from Slido. I'm pretty sure you want to ask him in person directly. So any question you want to ask Gao Tian, just come forward to the stage, and we'll deliver my microphone to you. Any question? Don't want a free meal or free trick to become
If you don't speak English, you can ask it in Mandarin. That's fine. Oh, you probably cannot understand that, right?
你们可以用中文问问题，然后高天用英文回答你，然后我们可以立刻双向沟通。You can ask question in English or Mandarin, it's all okay for that. So shy? Let me refresh the Slido again. Okay, come to the stage.
I saw your PyCon trip to the US, and you say you hate Rust. So how is your feel about Rust is spread around the world in Linux kernel, in the sudo, and everything else? And often LLM generates Rust code, like Bang or others.
Yeah, I don't hate Rust. I hate Rust lovers. That's different. That's different, right? I don't hate the language itself. I think the language is great. I just don't like people who think that's great. Right? The reason that I don't like Rust lovers is just because sometimes I think they're too like maniac. That's a advanced word for crazy. It's just like they just try to push Rust so hard that they want to rewrite everything in Rust, and they believe that Rust is better than every single language in the world in every aspect, which is not true. But yeah, I think Rust as a new language that starts to be used in a lot of projects definitely has its own advantage. And yes, I think it should be gradually adopted in a lot of lower level projects, whether it's a Linux kernel or sudo you just mentioned, or even on some Windows drivers. That's probably useful. And the Python community are using Rust a lot for extensions as well, because PyO3 is a very great project. But yeah, that's basically my answer. I don't hate Rust. Okay? It's the people that I don't like.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your question. So just still like Rust, but not Rust lover. Any question from the floor? Yeah? No? Okay. Any question? Yes.
Hello. Thank you for your presentation. Very cool. I love to be here. I want to ask about motivations. For example, if you are just contributor and you want to grow your career, yeah, you have some like point to achieve in the future. For example, you start contribute to Python, CPython, yeah, you're becoming to member of Triage team, you become maybe a member of JIT team, yeah, and in the top you become into core dev of CPython, or maybe steer console, yeah. But as we know, active core devs in Python, it's about 50 or 60 people. And if we open all list of core devs, it's around 200. Yeah. The first question: what motivation do you have, except lunch, free lunch? What motivation do you have, and what motivation CPython community should give to core devs that they will still be in project and still will grow CPython? Yeah, this is the first question.
So first of all, it's not a free lunch, it's free lunches. You get a lot of free lunch. Yeah, so, well, that's a joke, but that's also real. So as a CPython core dev, you actually got more care from people, and people are interested in your experience. And I do love Python, the language itself, right? I don't hate Rust, but I love Python. And so I like internally, I want to work on it. I want my code to be part of it. I want like in a world where people discuss about Python, they were like, oh, I use PDB. And I was like, oh, I implemented a few features of it. Do you like it? That's the self-actualization part that I mentioned in the slides, right? That's actually the motivation for me, for myself. When I started working on CPython and became a core dev, I did not think too much about how this would boost my career path. And like, it happened later, but I did not think of it. I don't believe it will help much on that area. But you probably don't know, but I do have a social media account. And becoming a Python core dev actually helped in that area. So basically you can brag, say, oh, I'm a Python core dev, and people start to follow you. That's probably another not so important motivation, but it kind of is still.
Okay. The next question: do you think that CPython community need pipeline that with some milestone that if you execute that, if you do so much pull requests, or if you will do something other, you will achieve like triage. You will become to triage team, or you will become to core dev. Because I'm working with students, and I explain them CPython internals in universities and advanced Python, and a lot of questions to me. Okay, Peter, we'll talk about that. We not so understand how it influence on our careers. If we will have a label like Python core dev or triage team, it's influence on our careers, but we don't understand what should we do step by step. And when I researched like core dev guide, I also didn't find this is like exactly clear pipeline.
Okay, so basically how to become a Python core dev. There is no guidance. There is no hard requirement, but there is kind of a mutually agreed internal way to do that. So basically, when you achieve like 30-ish merge pull requests and you behave pretty well in the community, that means you not only submitting PRs, you also review PRs from other people. You also discuss in both DPO, discussion.python.org, and in issues. There will be people inviting you to the triage team. And that is, for now, almost always the first step to become a Python core dev. That's about 30. And then the important thing is that you can keep doing this thing for a relatively long time. So you have pull requests every month or even every week. You are involved in discussion in the community, and you probably go to PyCons, meet other core devs, and then like I said in the talk, about 100 commits. and lasting over about a year and a half. And then you can probably get an invitation to become a core dev. And by then, normally you already knew a few core devs that work very closely with you for the last year or the last half a year, and they will discuss with you your path to Python core dev before they nominate you.
Okay, and can I ask one more question? Okay. Okay, very easy question. Okay, you discuss, you show to us pipeline how to become to CPython core dev based on the previous time. Now is the AI time, and as you said, it's so much more easy to do pull requests and so on. Even if it will be a good pull request, what do you think how the pipeline will be changed? Because of as I communicate with core devs, I think. It's not so obviously how people will become to new core devs because of code becoming an easy part. Coding becoming an easy part.
Yeah, like I said, generating code is easier. Merging is probably not. Merging is probably even harder. So you need to prove that your code generated by LLM is great to CPython. It's not trivial. It's not like you type something and Cloud Code or Codex is gonna generate some code that is good enough to be merged. So you still, I mean, you are using LLM and you are still responsible for the code that is generated by LLM. And the path to the Python core dev in AI era does not change that much, I believe. It's still the same thing. It's just people are using different tools to write code.
Thank you so much. Let's thank you for Gaotian again and for the speech and the Q&A session. Before end this part, I would like to invite our conference organizer, Yanzi, to give you a small gift because you accept our invitation and come to Taiwan. It's better for you to have a beautiful face, not green face.